Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and we're back with the next ICG webinar. And we're here to ask the question, can estate agents in 2021 run without a high street presence? So first, I'd like to go to our resident estate agent in the room, Kristjan Byfield, who is a letting agent in that there London. Kristjan, do you run from a high street location? Talk to us.
So no, is the short answer to that, Chris. We launched 2004. We never aspired to have a high street office. We always aspired to work on what is now sort of referred to as a hub model. We didn't really have any label for it back then. But we always found, particularly in London, retail premises for starters are extremely expensive. And the reality is, the typical demographic we're dealing with, they're doing the majority of their activity online. So why have a shop? Why need a shop? I don't think it's ever held us back in any way. If anything, it's helped us sort of differentiate ourselves early doors from what was generally happening in the marketplace. But you have to think about, I think it's like anything. If you're not going to spend money elsewhere, you should be thinking about where you spend that money. So, we looked at not spending that money on a retail space and saving it with office. So we invested that money into tech and infrastructure within our business. And that is what helped us gain the profit margin that we get in our business. So, yeah, I think, anything that you're not doing, you've got to think about how you're leveraging it and how you're using that elsewhere in your business to benefit.
Good stuff. Okay, next up, we'll go to estate agents PropTech's best looking property guru, Iain White, to ask him, Iain, you guide and support many decent sized estate agents. I know you look after a few one-man bands, but you look after some 5, 10, 15, 20 operators, big boys in the industry. Any of your clients don't run from a high street location?
Yeah, a number of them don't very successfully. So the simple answer to your question is yes, I think you can have an estate agency that runs successfully that is not. Hang on, I'm sure that was on airplane mode, but obviously not. That run very successfully without high street premises. Having said that, I've got lots of clients that run very successfully with a high street premises. I'm not entirely sure where you're based is really the big argument. The big argument is about the leadership, the systems and processes, the ethos and the direction of the business. Of course, not having a premises does free up your time. You don't have to physically be open. All of your staff can be out at the same time, and yet your customer base won't know. Whereas if you've got a front door on the high street, you tend to have to be fixed to this rigid sort of system of people working weekends and everything else. So you lose a bit of flexibility, but you gain that obvious presence on your high street, which is the biggest billboard you'll ever have. So I think both models can be successful. You just need to be very clearly identified, what model you are, what your business ethos is, what your offering is to your client, regardless of how you're delivering that, from whether that be from a first floor office or a high street premises, or people working remotely, full stop.
Okay, let's go to the Scandinavian estate letting agent, Kristjan, and then we'll go to Ben afterwards.
So thanks, Chris. The one thing I wanted to come back to is, I think, whether you don't or do have a shop, if you do have a shop, I think like all of retail at the moment, you're having to reimagine what it is that your retail space, your shop front, is delivering. And I think, what I find slightly concerning is, I regularly go on holidays around the country, and you walk down your high street and have a bit of a nosy at what agents are doing there. And you'll see half of the estate agents' offices that you look at the windows at have not changed in 20 or 30 years. Literally, they will still have the same when they fitted out their office 30 years ago. They've still got the polystyrene tiles and the, everything else. And that is never going to be an experience in today's market that people are going to want. So if you've got a shop front, it can't just be a glorification do you want people to have from outside the shop, but also when they step inside, what experience are they getting? There's some great agents out there. I mean, off the top of my head, location, the guys in Stoke Newington, they're constantly transforming amazing window displays in their space. Sometimes community initiatives, sometimes more marketing stuff, but it constantly keeps evolving. So it keeps people looking in their window. So it's a constant sales space. So if you're going to have a shop, if you're going to have retail, leverage it, use it. Don't just sit there. Don't just be an office with a window.
Okay, let's go to Ben next, and then Bradley, and then Charlotte.
Yeah, I think what Kristjan you just said was, you know, someone like Apple, they just reinvented the whole way you do it. They made it an experience. You feel awesome in there with all their cool people. The moment you continue doing what they're all doing, it's just the same as using Lego houses, handshakes, and keys on your website. You just look the same as everyone else. My personal opinion, it won't come as any surprise because I've been saying it for many, many years, is that if you could just spend the 150 grand you used to do in your shop fit outs on your digital marketing, then I can absolutely guarantee better results. I do see it as a billboard on the high street, but I personally would love my billboards scattered across the internet, targeted to people who are actually interested right now.
So let's be honest, how many times do we actually go down the high street versus how many times do we get our eyeballs on this? Let's go to Bradley next and Charlotte afterwards.
Just picking up from that, Chris and Ben, I think it's worth noting that the COVID environment has driven a huge acceptance of virtual. And regardless of whether you have the physical presence or not, you really do need to be investing in the virtual. It brings efficiency, it brings quality of service. It's what people want. So do consider it.
Okay, let's go to Charlotte. Charlotte, what have you got to add to this?
So I think ultimately estate agency and lettings has always been a people business, hasn't it? So whether you're high street or online, it's about that presence. I work with a number of agents who, in fact, a very close agent to me here. She was a mum. She used to turn up at the school gates. She's set up working in an area near her. She dominates the marketplace, absolutely dominates it because she's known, she networks, she's helpful, she's got boards up everywhere. She hasn't got an office and she juggles it with 4 kids. So if she can do it, then I think anyone can do it without presence. But I do think it's about the personalities in the industry nowadays that is probably more important. And that aligned with what Ben says, brand presence, social media, I think is very, very powerful.
Excellent, excellent. Anyone else got anything to add to this? Lovely. Well, I tell you what, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time today, and we'll see you on the next ICG webinar, where we'll be talking about whether content marketing will attract you vendors and landlords in 2021, and whether the old school job titles of negs, valuers, and branch managers are going to be out of the door. We'll see you on the next one.